Luxembourg, interview number 2. I'm standing here with Corinne Kox.
Welcome.
Lovely to be here, actually. So you have been exhibitor at the Cookland Wine Summit 2025, and you join us also in 2026, which I'm very happy about. And it's great to finally be here with you in your vineyards. And we stand next to a tree, and we will definitely talk about that, why we stand next to a tree in the middle of your vineyard. But before we are getting started talking about the winery, talking about your wine styles, let's get you to know a little bit more personally. So first question for you, Corinne, if you would not be a winemaker today, what would be the alternative in your life?
I would probably work in a forest. I have always loved to be outside. As a winemaker, technically you're supposed to be outside, but we spend quite a lot of time also inside. But I think the alternative would have been, to work in a forest.
To work in a forest?
Yeah.
Beautiful. In Luxembourg or somewhere else in the world?
No idea, because I studied abroad, so there was actually not the idea to coming back to Luxembourg when I was a student. I lived abroad for 10 years, and it's actually only my partner who brought me back to Luxembourg, so maybe I could have been anywhere on the globe.
Somewhere in New Zealand.
Maybe. Actually, that was actually the point at some point. So yes, maybe New Zealand.
Wonderful. So now you are a winemaker today.
Yes.
And often like winemakers have been influenced by somebody or some school of thought or some experiences they made. So if you have to point to like a single influence for you that really shaped your winemaking, is anybody or anything coming to your mind?
Well, I will do an exception. I will give you 2, and because there's one point is the winemaking, but the other one, what has shaped me is the vineyard or the management in the vineyard, and I'm a big fan of the Domaine L+R in the Bordeaux region, which nobody knows because it's a small family winery, but they are really pioneers when it comes to Vitiforestry. So they've done that for more than 15 years, and they have helped me also to understand a little bit how I can manage this system also in Luxembourg. So that's the vineyard part. When it comes to winemaking, I would not name one winery, but rather a style, and I love precision. So I look at those wineries who are capable of making wines which are just so precise. When you taste the wine, it's so clear and you know exactly what you taste, and that is something that I love.
Now I'm already excited to hear the answer for the third question, because if you talk about precision, etc., and knowing you like for a while, I'm like excited to hear your perspective on this question. So if you should describe your personality as a bottle of wine, what kind of wine would you choose?
I would go for Dosage Zéro. Sparkling, because I think I'm quite energetic, that I want to be on point, that I am somebody who, well, it's sharp, it's clear, and I think a Crémant Dosage Zéro would be quite my personality.
Any specific grape variety?
That would rather be because I love the story behind it, and because I love the link of that grape variety to the Moselle area. That would be Auxerrois. Also because it's great as Crémant, and we use Auxerrois in the Dosage Zéro.
The common thing, like talking to Luxembourg winemakers, is this excitement about Auxerrois, and that we really have to like promote this grape variety a little bit more in the world, right? I mean, it's personally also like really one of my missions, I think, really showing the beauty of it, because I simply love it since I first came in contact with it. Final question for the introduction round. Nature.
Yeah. What
role does it play for you and in the winemaking process and the work in the vineyards?
Well, actually, I'm a molecular biologist. That's my studies. So when I see a vineyard, then it's not only what our eyes see, but I also think of what is underground. And so for me, it's the whole ecosystem on the plot, which for me is nature. Most diversity on Earth is part of is in the soil. So biology definitely for me a very important part, which we are not so aware of yet, and how important it is, or not how important it is, but how we can manage to have resilient soils, healthy soils, living soils. That's a very important part when it comes to vineyards.
Wonderful. So with this like little introduction, can you please introduce the Domaine Kox to us?
So the name is Domaine L+R Kox, which stands for Laurent and Rita, who they are my parents. We have vineyards in the family since many generations, but the name of it is L+R because my parents really focused only on the winemaking and bottling it, whereas my grandfather was still a mixed activity between farming and winemaking, and he was also selling some grapes. And so I think the story of Domaine L+R Kox really starts with my parents, or is at least the foundation of it, of what exists today is what they have done. And so that's where the name comes from, and we're not going to change the name. That's the founders, and that's going to be the name. So my family, it's today spelled Kox, the family name, but we come actually from the Brabant area, which is in the southern Netherlands. In the 17th century, they moved to Moselle. And so that is a little bit the history. Now, what are we doing in the winery? We are known for experimenting a lot. So somebody who comes to the winery and expects to just taste 5 wines, usually these people are lost. So I really have to introduce ourselves, the wines, so that I can give them the 5 wines they are interested in, because our list is enormous. Because we don't have a lot of wines with big volumes. We sometimes just bottle 1 barrel. We have 300 bottles. That's it. Because we work with 15 different grape varieties, diversity also on the plot. And then, of course, we experiment depending on the grape variety. We use different methods. Crémant, we have more than 10 different Crémants, because also there we use all the grape varieties we have at our disposal.
Wonderful. Shall we start with one maybe?
Yes,
you brought especially like a very special Crémant for us, right?
I did. So it's the newest Crémant that we have added to our selection. So this is a Crémant made of PIWI, so a future wine.
Okay, so we have a PIWI in the glass.
Yes,
sparkling PIWI.
Yes, exactly.
What grape varieties?
Cabernet Blanc.
Cabernet Blanc. Okay.
So it's where we have also most in terms of quantities. So we made only 1,000 bottles of these just to see how it's working, what the profile is going to be, and if the profile is sellable. So the idea is to sell the wine, so we have to check if that is something that people are interested in. But the first bottles, they have been delivered last week with a very positive return from the customers. So I think next year we're going to start all over again with the same and just increasing the volume.
I mean, Cabernet Blanc so far, in my personal opinion, is one of the PIWI varietals where I see the biggest customer appeal, right? Because it has a little bit this vegetable touch that we know from Sauvignon Blanc, for example, but in a more like integrated way for me. And then it usually comes in a very creamy way for me. I always like see it as a little bit substantial, creamy, reminding nearly of like oak Chardonnay, so to say, right? And I think this is really a combination that people like. And the acidity is quite well integrated. It's like a medium plus acidity, grape variety. So there's nothing like wrong with it that people should not like about it.
Exactly. What can be a bit, what can put people off is a little bit the greenish pepper bell aroma when it's a bit too strong. That's what we realized when it comes to wine. We don't have that in Crémant because already the second fermentation in the bottle, etc., creates a completely new profile of Cabernet Blanc, and that is where really the creaminess and more the softness of the greenish note of these green pepper bell, gooseberry notes, actually they are present, but not as dominant, and so it's more the creaminess which actually comes through, and so that is exactly what people love.
I think it's really nice. It's creamy. It's a tiny bit of like very tiny bit of a vegetable hint. It's very fruity, very in the fresh apple side, fresh pear side.
Exactly.
To me, it's like really funny. Like if you put seasons on wines, this really like is spring.
Yes.
Like a fresh spring day somehow.
Exactly.
Like sun is coming out for the first time. You get a little bit of this feeling on the skin. Oh, it's getting warmer. But you still know in the evening it's getting cold again.
Exactly.
So to say, right?
I totally agree.
Oh, I love it. Nice acidity, nice backbone. The yeast is like How long did you have it on the lease?
1 year.
1 year,
This
okay.
is really,
It's really soft, really brioche-like. Just touch it, it gives you good body, good support. This is really marketable in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. We have seen it already, so we are very happy about it. And we didn't call it this Crémant. We didn't call it by the name of Cabernet Blanc, but we wanted to give a fictional name. We called it Bulle d'audace.
Yeah.
So the audacious character of bottling a Crémant with Cabernet Blanc. So this is the first Crémant using PIWI in Luxembourg. Yeah. So that is where the audacious character is coming from. But people then ask why, and then we actually have a story to tell. If we just write Cabernet Blanc on the bottle, people wouldn't really ask what it is about. So I think this fiction name actually helps us to tell the story behind.
Very, very lovely. And sparkling is very important for you. 50% of your production today
approximately,
is sparkling, right? I mean, in general, like Crémant de Luxembourg is something that people really have to discover because it's 30% of Luxembourg production is sparkling.
Yes.
So you're really like a sparkling wine nation,
definitely.
so to say.
And when you go to, if you're invited somewhere, we always drink Crémant. Crémant, if you go to other countries, bubbles would rather be for a special occasion, anniversary or whatever. In Luxembourg, Crémant is drank for any occasion. It starts with brunch and you finish your evening with Crémant, and that explains also why we produce so much, because it is really it is demand. There's a real demand for it. And my dad, he started making Crémant in '91, so that was also the year of the creation of Crémant. It only exists since 1991, and so he started with day one, and that explains also why our look.
Oh, what is that?
We're going to talk about biodiversity. So we just have a nice bird. I have no idea how you say this in English. A moisebussard.
A bussard. I think it's I don't know what a bussard is. We can put this in the show notes definitely. So everybody knows what we are talking about. But it's a beautiful, beautiful
and
bird.
We're very close to us, so it's really cool.
We're just like swinging over here the vineyard and looking
coming
for
back
prey.
Again. Apparently, it's interesting for him. Or her.
Well, I mean, talking about biodiversity and PIWI, right? I mean, maybe let's use this like as a kind of bridge. We said in the beginning we stand next to a tree, so Vitiforestry is enormously important for you. Recreating, you just explained to me, recreating this ecosystem about this like small like little valley that we are standing here on top of, so to say, in your vineyard. So what are the plans there for the Vitiforestry and the work here?
So I just told you that I'm a molecular biologist, so there was never the plan to come back home and to take over the winery. I actually didn't really like working in the vineyards when I was a kid. It was all about production and not really working with nature, or I didn't feel to work with nature. It was more, this is our production site. And of course, it is still the case, but I really wanted to integrate plants. And so I was like, okay, I can continue criticizing viticulture as a monoculture because I hated seeing the monoculture, or I can try to make it better. And so then I said, well, I'll try the difficult thing. And I wanted, then I was looking actually for solutions. What can I do? And then Vitiforestry for me seemed the closest to what I have in mind to improve the system. And so that is where Domaine L+R comes into play, because I still have a lot of contact with them, because of course the setting is different. We have small plots, so what can we do on small plots, etc. But even on small plots there's a lot to do, and so the idea is really to create an ecosystem on the plot, meaning that it's not only a production side, it's the idea is really to have nature on the plot. And sometimes, yes, we need to compromise. Maybe we have to share berries or whatever. No model is perfect. We cannot exploit and have 100% for us if we have the nature around us. So the idea is really to have a plot where my vines are resilient or become resilient. And where I have a good balance between the quality, the quantity. So of course we're not going to produce masses and masses of grapes. The idea is really to push quality, but at the same time create also a system where we have diversity. We all know that biodiversity is shrinking. So the idea is really to create an area where we have insects, starting from soil, that we have a really living soil with a very high diversity and a high number of living organisms, and it's really a large pot there in the soil. We want to have insects, and insects attract birds. Of course, birds, they like grapes as well, and that is where I say we have to find a balance. But we also attract bats, and here we are actually on a plot which is Natura 2000. We have a hunting zone here of a nearly extinct bat, and the idea is actually to make also our plots interesting for the bats. A bat is so not interested in a vine or a vineyard with 2 meters high, where there's no food and where it cannot even hang out. And the idea is that we bring diversity. In this case, here we have a row of fruit trees, and then on the other end we have a hedge which is separating the vineyard from the next plot, and then also there we have trees, but then in this case we have deciduous trees. In between of the fruit trees we have berries. So the idea is really to have height. Height could be very interesting in the next years to come, and I'm not talking about the next 5 years, but then the next 5 years the tree is not going to be very big. So I'm going to talk about the 20 years to come, when we have more effects from climate change, more heat, maybe more drought as well. So then the tree could be interesting in terms of bringing shadow and creating a new microclimate on the plot as well. And then of course the berries. There's also a social component here, why we decided to put fruit trees and berries. I mean, it's very nice when you work and then you end up next to the trees and you can start picking some, and it's a completely different feeling when you are on this plot than, you know, just rows and rows of vineyards.
So, and I found two things about this especially interesting. The one thing that you said earlier to me is this whole idea about resilience in the vineyard, right? Because you phrased it to me like a little bit, in best case, you don't have to do anything, because the vineyard itself is so healthy as a working ecosystem and so stable and resilient that you don't have to do anything. Right? So this would be the best case for you.
Yes, because that means my vineyard is healthy. If it doesn't needs me, then that means it's healthy, and that is the whole point. I want a healthy vineyard. And to have there's a good example in the Alsace region where there's a winery. They nearly don't do much. It's really it's a complicated system, but it works in a way. But that is also, I don't know how I can manage this in the next years, but definitely my idea is to have a healthy vineyard by itself, that I don't really need to intervene all the time, and there's a few ways to go to or find out what works, but that would be my biggest goal, to have really the resilience in the vineyard.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. Shall we have a second wine?
Yes, we do.
What did you bring there for us?
I brought our orchard wine, one of the orchard wines. So this is a wine from these Vitiforestry parcels. We have 4 for the moment, because we work on loads of different plots, but we have 4 where we planted trees. And this is one wine from one of these plots. There's no grape variety on it, not even the name of the winery. The idea is that the star of this bottle is the plot. So I actually give a lot of information. You can see there is roses around, so it's our roses vineyard. So that means in the vineyard we have a lot of roses. And then on the back side, it's in French, but I mean now internet helps to translate.
We translate it, yeah.
Exactly. So there's a very poetic description of the vineyard. The idea is that you already have a feeling with the plot.
Yeah, okay.
And so that you know actually where this wine really originates from, and it's not well, the winemaker is part of this process, but the origin is really the vineyard. And
I like this idea of coming back, like also like on when it comes to labels or wine descriptions, to this like core essence of terroir at the end of the day.
Yes.
I really noticed it for the first time very consciously with a winemaker I used to work with, Michaela Riedmüller from Carnuntum. She had like flowers, very typical flowers for each vineyard on the labels. And then later on, I realized that like many Austrian winemakers also really go this, showing some birds that are, for example, like very typical for a certain wine site, etc. Right? Giving just an impression of the biodiversity of something that is very typical for the vineyard, except the grape or except the style, so to say. So it's kind of beautiful approach.
Maybe there's one more information. It's this one is called Fille d'Auxonne. So orchard is the lineup of all these plots, and Fille d'Auxonne is this typical wine. Fille d'Auxonne means Ausonius' daughter or something like this. Ausonius or Ausonne in French is a Roman poet. He was in the he is from the Bordeaux area, but he came to Trier, where he was the educator of the emperor's kids. And so he fell in love with the Moselle area, and he wrote this very famous, for us famous, poem, Moselle. And Moselle is a description of everything around the river Moselle, and part of it is viticulture. So it's a literature piece that already describes viticulture 2,000 years ago. And I want to actually, well, Vitiforestry is nothing new, so I actually want to combine the historical part with what we do on the plot, because Vitiforestry, I mean, monoculture is something new. What we do here is we just go back in time, and so I always try to combine these both sides. And a lot of people actually don't know the Moselle area, also Luxembourg, has a very long-lasting history of
until
winemaking,
Roman times,
2,000 years, and so that is what I'm trying to explain as well with this type of bottle.
Beautiful. I'm excited. I mean, I already had the nose in the glass, so it's really, really compelling in its aroma complexity. I think it's really, really nice fruit side here, really nice florality, touch of minerality, creamy.
Yeah, there's also a certain softness to it, and very gastronomic as well.
So, so much substance. It's so much like depth and substance on the palate, really. It's, in general, something that I experience with the wines here very often, that in general, like, I think the Luxembourg wine style is really a gastronomic wine style. I mean, of course, you have like certain soil types and compositions here with the clay and the chalk and the special microclimate. And we talked about the slopes that you have here, that are a little bit more rolling, so to say, compared to like the Middle Moselle in Germany. So I really think the wines coming out here are very clean, very crisp, very mineral in style, but also often very substantial because of the chalky soil, very powerful. So I really see like a lot of like use cases for many of the varieties that you grow here in the wine style to make for gastronomy, right? So it's a shame that Luxembourg wine is not like more like widespread outside of Luxembourg. So we have to work on that.
We'll do. We give our best to do that in the future.
That's beautiful. So we are definitely looking forward to have you in January in Copenhagen again. And I would state this in every of the interviews and say to people, like, really, if you go to the Moselle in Germany, take the 1-hour trip and go over the border and come to Luxembourg. It's really worth the time, and you don't have to stay here for long because it's all like so compact and so close by. You can manage in 2 days to get a good impression.
I would even say, well, do the whole Moselle area. You start at the source of Moselle, so that would be in France. And then go all along the Moselle to end up in Koblenz, because the areas are different. So Moselle, it does not mean Moselle, one Moselle. It has different facades, and it's really interesting to actually discover the whole Moselle. So that would take about a week, I would say.
And the funny thing is that you say it takes about a week. I did this trip like last summer, in 3 days with a crazy elderly German enologist who was like really rushing us through. We don't have time. We have to be in Koblenz in 3 days. And I can definitely recommend to take a week for it, because 3 days is definitely not long enough.
You need to have a very tight schedule to do that in 3 weeks, in 3 days.
Corinne, aside that, we see you in January, and people are more than invited to join you at the winery and get an impression. 5 years from now, and you already told me that you think longer than 5 years from now, but 5 years from now, where are you and where's the winery?
I'm still on my way to finding the secret to a more resilient vineyard. I hope that I can still move on that track on the precision in the wines. Still very dry wines. Well, we're talking about Dosage Zéro. I love when it's dry, when it's clear, when it's precise, and where nothing is actually hiding the identity of the wine.
Yes.
So I think that is really my continued way in the next years, 5 years, but I see it even, it's always, I mean, you never stop actually. So it's probably until I die, it's on, I will be on that track.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here. And
well, thank you for coming by.
Always, and see you in January in Copenhagen. Cheers.
Cheers.